Hi, beautiful people. I'm very happy to welcome you to our regular Sunday Lightwear Collective call. We are a collective that is happy to offer you a very safe space for you to feel uplifted, empowered, connected, and just to allow you to be with us in this moment. And we love to inspire you with the offering you special guests, experiencing very new ways of going deep, of feeling empowered and doing your inner work. And I always feel it's beautiful. We are all so conscious, um, and we have our inner practice, but it's very good sometimes to step into the unknown and maybe do something that you have never done before. And I feel this session today is going to be like that, because for me it's a completely new experience. I have never done it, and I'm so happy that, yeah, like our core team is always bringing very unique guests into our collective that are sharing these kind of practices with you. So today we have Lux, and I hand it over for the major intro. But I really want to say a big thank you that you're with us and that you're sharing your gift with us and that you are guiding us today through this unique experience. I have my stuff ready here, Lux. So thank you very much for being here and for serving our community. And I hand it over, please. Let's get started.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the introduction, and I'm really grateful to be here. This is a whole lot of new for me, so I'm right there with you. Everybody's doing something new today. All right, so neurographic art. This is a way of transforming stress and anxiety by tapping into art, by tapping into your own neural pathways. So I really like this image here. It just kind of came with the PowerPoint, but it's very, very similar to what we're doing. Essentially just connecting lines and dots. Oh, there we are. So a little bit about myself. I've been doing visual art for most of my life, mostly painting. And I use it as a way to process a lot of the challenges through my youth. And it definitely helped later on when I actually kind of tapped into it. But as a child and as a teenager, I definitely judged myself pretty harshly for it because I wasn't to the standard. I was giving myself too high of an expectation. And I later distanced myself from that because of my expectation. And it kind of made me feel like I was disconnected from who I actually am. And so later on, choosing it as my main career path, it was about accepting myself and exploring who I am and my own healing and spirituality. And because of the journey I've been on, I hope to help other people. Oh, I hope to help other people tap into their own in looking inward and finding their own connection to source, or whatever you'd like to call it, the all or God, through the paintings that I create. And I have a slide here that has some of my own artwork on it. So I do a lot of cosmic-y kind of like galactic art style, and I've kind of redirected it to bring into the smaller things like a flower or a ladybug or a butterfly, because to me it shows that that spirit, that God is in every little thing that we see and that we experience. And yeah, the galactic themes that I use is a way to show the all is a vast pregnant emptiness that holds unimagined possibilities and helps give perspective to the uniqueness of each moment and every person we encounter. So yeah. So what is neurographic art? It's created by a Russian psychologist, creativity entrepreneur and architectural and architect, Pavel Paskarev in 2014, as a drawing technique to process the challenges and reflect on emotions. His artistic method is a simple way to work with the subconscious mind through drawing, which can stimulate new neural pathways by combining art and psychology. Connecting to the nervous system through drawing or other activities can help process information, enabling people to interact, experience emotions and sensations, and create memories and enable learning. So that's a really great way of essentially tapping into the neurographic art is essentially a roadmap to your own internal highways. And because you can go very deep on those internal highways, it can also be used to heal deeper traumas when used in a safe and controlled environment. And because it has such a deep potential to open some deep doors, it can also be hold the potential to unlock emotions and deep emotions and memories that can be very difficult to understand or control. And I always recommend to anybody when doing such a deep and intentional thing, if you feel overwhelmed or you feel that it's a little bit too heavy for what's coming up for you, I highly recommend reaching out to a peer, somebody that you have like a deep relationship with that you can actually discuss things with, or a licensed therapist. I have a couple resources here for online resources in case you just need something accessible, but some people have a hard time actually physically seeing a counselor, so on the phone is a little bit easier, or online. So I have BetterHelp here, Talkspace, Calmery. They're all some of the top online therapists, licensed therapist resources. So let's get into it. Essentially what you need is a sketchbook, a blank piece of paper, a felt tip marker, pen, pencil, just anything that's going to be able to draw. And you don't necessarily have to have color if you don't want to. But if you're limited on options, I do actually have a highlighter in the picture here just to kind of show what that anything is possible. So if you have even just like a pen and a pencil, you can use the pencil to shade, anything like that. Pens, pencil, crayons, or paints. I actually used watercolor in mine at the end. I just found it was quite a bit easier to cover large spaces with minimal effort. So step one, we're going to be thinking about an initial issue or a feeling or emotion that you're looking to process. And if you don't have anything, then you can just kind of sit with your like the current emotional state. And for the first 30 seconds, you're going to hold that intention in your mind, the issue, the emotion you're sitting with. And essentially, you're just going to be drawing around a piece of paper from edge to edge and holding that in mind. And we don't have to worry about what it looks like because it's going to look amazing towards the end. So step two is after you've held that emotion or topic in your mind that you're looking to process, then you can look at the piece afterwards and kind of if there was any blank spaces that you kind of wanted to fill. In this one over here, I put piece. I just kind of added a few little things to fill out the paper. I tried to add a heart too, but I think it was a bit too round. But yeah, so use this time to reflect on the approach you wish to have regarding the initial issue. And any mistakes that you see, we'll fill them in. And so we don't have to worry about it too much. But yeah, filling out the paper. Step three is, so this is kind of where it starts to expand a little bit more. So we're softening out the edges. I don't know if you can see my mouse at all, but the bigger circle, the pink one that I have here, is a kind of a zoomed in shot of the U shape that you're going to be using to soften the corners. And just kind of like expand the line out into the line that you're meeting it to. I like to use, so if you only have a pen, this actually works quite a bit better because you have a bit more control. I normally use like a thick Sharpie and then a finer point just to get a little bit more control. And a couple little examples here. And then as we as you soften out the edges, I feel like that generally takes the largest amount of time, especially if you have a lot of intersecting lines. Then you just kind of soften out all the edges and thicken up any lines that you want thicker. If you have any mistakes anywhere, you can fill them in. And even as you go, you can continue filling, putting in, if you see anything like anything stands out to you and you want it to look like, say, a butterfly or a ladybug or a bird or a bumblebee or anything that you see, a star in the image, you can always keep adding as you go. And when you feel fully satisfied with how everything's kind of coming together, especially as you fill in all the intersecting lines, you definitely kind of see how it does end up looking like the neural pathways. I can go back here to this other image. So this is an image here of the actual neural pathways. And so as you start filling in the intersecting lines, you see how it actually ends up looking like that. This is it. And then so step 5 is when we're selecting colors, and especially to stick with the intention behind it, picking colors that fit with the emotions that you're feeling, or the emotions about the topic, or maybe what if you started out with say a very anxious emotion, and as you go through the process you notice you're starting to calm down, you could use colors that reflect the current emotional state rather than the initial one. And as I progressed, the one on the left here, as I progressed, I did see a butterfly and a ladybug, so I did add it in afterwards. And actually with this piece, this bigger one, I did, I think I had used this page and I did a watercolor as a background for something else, but I didn't end up using it. So I just utilized it as another example. So adding color doesn't always have to be at the end. If you wanted to, you could add it at the beginning, and then just whatever lines you see in the paint or the marker or whatever you're using, you can follow whatever lines you see in that. And that's kind of essentially what I did here. And then so yeah, and you could even use, like I said, a highlighter, or even just only fill in 1 to 2 cells if you'd like. And so it's really up to you. You're the master of your own art piece, and so if you only just want, say, 1 or 2 of these cells as color, you can totally do that. You don't even have to have color. It's totally optional. There we go. So essentially what we're doing is, when you're doing the drawing, I find for myself, I really get into the flow state quite well. And sometimes I even completely forget what my initial thought was. But when you're done with it, you can kind of connect the two. So reflect on what was the initial thought, intention when you started, and where you are now, and what you're seeing in front of you. So a lot of times, what we see can reflect certain things. So the intensity of the lines can reflect the level of emotional intensity you have. The thickness of the lines, how much power you feel in the emotions, how much power you feel in yourself. So if you're feeling very powerful in a decision that you're making, for example, you might have quite thick lines. Another thing is the shape or the words you chose, and how soft and sharp those are, or what kind of emotions they bring up. So like a butterfly or ladybug are going to be very soft emotions, whereas say if someone sees a piece of like a broken cup in their image, and they kind of accentuate that, then that's going to be more of a sharper a sharper emotion, a sharper image behind it. The same as the colors. So warm or cool colors. Mine were kind of a mix between warm and cool colors, but they all together created kind of like a soft image, but also very pleasant. So that kind of shows where I was, at least at the end of it. I know some of the intentions that I held for one of those was kind of like there was a lot of anxiety behind it, but I was doing my best to kind of process and not get stuck in the anxiety. And so this is another great example of doing this as a form of like meditation, just getting into it, and then how you feel afterwards will be reflected in the final product. So again, every piece is different and it holds a unique key to our inner worlds. Take the time to really consider, especially if it's a very heavy topic that you're working through, what you see, and reflect on the approach that you had at the initial situation. So some questions that you can sit with, especially when looking at it. Is there an excess of emotions or any energy that needs to be worked through? And what came up for you as you drew? Was there any thoughts that came up? Was there any emotions that came up? Did you feel a shift, as I was mentioning? So one of the pieces that I had a lot of anxiety initially. And then afterwards, because I was able to kind of get in that flow state and just kind of be with myself and allow the anxiety to pass through, my emotions afterwards were quite a bit different than what I had started with. But the biggest thing about all of this is it's really just a way of having fun, and you don't have to hold any like grand expectations of what it's supposed to look like. And you can expand your imagination and tap into your own internal highways. So it opens the door for so many different things without it having to be an intense situation. And I really hope that everyone can get something out of this. I think it's a beautiful process that anybody can use. So this is my PowerPoint. I really appreciate the opportunity to share about myself and what I use to heal and grow past some challenges that I've had in my life. So if there's any questions, or if anybody just wanted some time to sit with their art. So yeah, I have some examples. This is one of the first pieces of neurographic art that I did. I just like, essentially you can look up on YouTube, or not YouTube, Google. They have so many different options, and people have taken some beautiful, beautiful places. And this is actually what kind of inspired this. So another option that you can do is when softening the lines and creating those U's, you don't have to fill it in with the black marker. I actually did kind of a mix on this one. So I started creating almost like other bubbles with the softer lines. And so that's something, if you only have a pen, that's something that you could do as well. Because coloring in all the lines can take a little time, especially if your pen's dying. But oh, sorry, I'm also trying to keep up with the chat a little bit here, make sure there's no questions that I have to answer. But yeah, this is definitely something that I wanted to make sure that everyone can actually have an understanding of what's going through, or what's going on. And then you can apply this later on, because it does take a little bit more than 45 minutes. Actually, this one here, because I already had the background done, the drawing itself actually didn't take too long, but it did take about an hour for the whole thing. So that's where the coloring, and if you have a lot more lines like this one, I think this was like 4 hours, but I totally gave myself time to just be with it. And then this one here, Sorry, this is my coloring book. But this one here, I think, because the intersecting lines, it did take about 3 hours. So if you're really wanting to sit with it and allow it to be like a deep processing, give yourself the time, don't rush it. And I didn't want anyone to feel rushed in the class. So I tried to break it down as much as I possibly could so you can take this and go with it wherever you want it to go. So if there's any questions that anybody has, feel free.
Archita has her hand raised, I believe.
Yeah, hi. I just have a small question. First of all, I really enjoyed the presentation, so thank you for that. I just wanted to understand the third step a little better. I'm still not very clear on it. So if you could just explain, if you could just explain that again, please.
Let me just double check.
Thank you.
The filling in the lines. Yeah, for sure. Here, I can actually just kind of draw it out.
It's the one
by the way.
Yeah.
Sorry?
No, I was just saying it's the point where you were talking about intersecting lines and then, trying to get a U there.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we can definitely do that. So I actually have a double-sided marker, which is great. So here, we'll just kind of draw a T out here. So intersecting line, anytime like you're drawing like that, intersecting line. So you're going to have intersecting line here and intersecting line over here. Sorry, I'm kind of like a little bit weird. But so each intersecting line you're going to draw from this edge and just kind of a really wide U. And then the same over here. So you can see as I fill it in, instead of it being a hard line, it becomes kind of a soft edge. And then you're doing that to all the corners. And this is where a finer marker comes in. Actually just makes it a lot easier because you have a little bit more control, or just a pen. So I'm just going to fill all this in.
This relates. Milika asked, is it intuitive and then deliberate? So the first, you have kind of a T or a cross there, but if the earlier step is actually just intuitive, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's essentially, and that's kind of what creates that almost a nerve-like image. And the more intersecting lines you have, especially around one area, I can use this one as an example. So like right here, it just kind of creates more of that ball and that nerve look. But yeah, starting out, I would say that the first step is more intentional, and then afterwards is a little bit more intuitive, because as you turn essentially what scribbles are, as you turn that into things and kind of soften the lines, you start to see more come out of it. And like in the one that I had the butterflies and the ladybug, that's kind of what came out for me.
Thank you so much.
Good morning, Lux and everybody. So beautiful. Your braids are phenomenally beautiful. I can see, Miss Lux. So unfortunately, I came in a little bit later. We were in a writing circle, me and Larry, but we're here right on time. That's where we're supposed to be. A few things. One, I went to an exhibit last night. It's amazing how your life correlates. I looked into a machine and it made artwork from my brain my thoughts. Have you seen something before?
No, I haven't.
Come to Vegas. I'll treat you, baby, if you come out here. Area one that lives in Las Vegas. It's amazing. Look it up online. You guys will come. I'll take you on a tour. Okay, so phenomenal this experience of how my life works, how it's so intertwined, to have had this immersive experience where it literally drew my neural pathways, and then to click on this and see that you are discussing the artwork of this is just so connected. I'm just like so in awe right now. I'm so excited. So first of all, thank you for that. Two, I'm a multimedia artist who has recently really stepped into my worth as an artist, my confidence as an artist. I will tell you, we are all profound artists. The most important thing is to be confident and own yourself and love yourself, because I'm studying under a really profound painter here in Las Vegas. And I've always been such an abstract artist. I never give myself credit that I could draw. And I sat next to him, and I was watching him, and I was so amazed. And I said, "How did you do that?" You know? He says, "Well, I just put my pen on the pad, and I let my hand go." Like he literally, his mind, his hand, his spiritual connection with source led his pen. And then I went home and found out I can draw really well. So I'm just listening to him, being confident, opening up and trusting myself. So like everything is so connected. And I just wanted to bring that full circle to see all the beautiful connections. It's just, thank you for this workshop. I would love to see the rest of it. I can't wait. And thank you so much.
Thank you so much for sharing. Yeah, it's beautiful how this all comes together. And I have a very close family friend of mine who's actually going to become an art therapist, and she's going to get her master's. And she didn't know I was doing this class until I posted it on Facebook, but she's like, "Oh, this is amazing because this is exactly what I'm learning about too." And it's she's basically learning about it from the nervous system point of view, and how that can like understanding the nervous system can teach how can like open blockages for you, but also help you understand like different aspects of yourself. And it was really great to have her share some of that information with me. It was a little bit complex. I tried to incorporate it into the PowerPoint a little bit, but it was just a little bit more kind of complex, and some of the terms were a little bit hard. So I kind of kept it to a simple side. But it's interesting how a lot of like therapy and art, they're all kind of like connecting because it is so interlocked. And so it's beautiful to see that that's kind of where we're going now.
Can I say one last thing? It's really interesting that you say about this therapy and art, because praise God, my mom doesn't have cancer anymore. But when she did, at the City of Hope, they gave art therapy. And so honestly, it was so much more important for the people that were supporting the people going through it, for me to have had that time, because it was so scary. I'm almost gonna cry right now. Just, you know, being there and like having that art therapy, it changed my life. And I want to do that for the kids in the cancer wards, actually go and offer my art services. So this is confirmation, and I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
I appreciate you. And yeah, you can even take this neurographic art, and it's so easy for anybody to do. So you can easily take that with you. Are there any other questions or comments?
I would have another question for you. Because now you gave the guidance of the steps, and we had people now joining us later, and we were referring to they can watch the replay and then re-watch the steps basically. How about like when we would say now we take like, what time is it, like 37, we take a few minutes so everybody starts to do the first step, to do a draft, and then we continue with the feedback, because I love how the session is in flow. Is it okay in general if you like, let's say you feel drawn to do it, and then you get started and you have your draft, but which is not finished at all, because obviously it takes real time to go deep. And then you keep your draft, and then you say, okay, this afternoon I really have time, I sit down and I continue the work. Is it okay to kind of split it, or would you say it's much more powerful to do it, and I need to dedicate myself, like, let's say these 2-3 hours, and I just I try to complete it in one run. By your experience, what would you recommend?
I think it's you could definitely do it either way, but I think there's also a potential benefit in, especially if it's so your initial intention that you're drawing the first lines with, if it's a very intense emotion, sometimes we need to take a step away from it, especially if as you're drawing, you're noticing that the level of intensity is increasing. Taking that break just to have a breath and then come back with it, especially because after drawing the first lines in the 30 seconds, what you're doing afterwards is you're essentially trying to direct your intention to that initial issue. So if it's, say, something as generic but also intense as a breakup, or say like a divorce, or there's an argument with a friend, something very, very intense, the intention you want to have after the first 30 seconds, or even just as you're softening the edges of the intersecting lines, if you're able to come back with a softer, just kind of like more empowered but also more at peace, then when you actually do the self-reflection afterwards, you can take that peace, that space into the initial issue. And that's where I think the huge benefit is you were able to actually understand the kind of intention you bring to like that emotion, or that situation. So I think there's a huge benefit in taking a break, and coming back to it. And I actually use this, like, if I have nothing to do, I don't always put an intention behind it. So it's a great just kind of hobby in between meetings, in between anything really. So
yeah, that's beautiful. I love that. It's really, really, um, I honestly, for me, it's very, very special because I have multiple sclerosis and I regularly deal with scans of my brain. And you know, it's the disease is all about the nervous system, and it's really powerful for me to look at this topic from your perspective. And I love it. And I don't know, guys, what do you think if we just now to to take a moment, maybe you just revise the first step quickly for those who joined a bit later. That we just dedicate a moment of, like, let's say maybe 5 minutes to do a draft, to tap into that and do a draft. So everybody has kind of this small seed to dive into. Then afterwards everybody can watch the replay and to continue from there. What do you think? I don't know, I feel very drawn to that. So if you're all at the same page, guys, send love and heart so we see you agree. Then yeah, I would invite you, Lux, just give a brief guidance, so for those who joined later, that they know what step one is, and we just go ahead with that.
all right, perfect. So going back to step one. So this is used as a tool for processing. So it's not mandatory, but holding a certain intention. If you have a certain issue that you're dealing with, or a certain feeling in your body, and you're trying to like decipher the code, just hold that in your mind. And I use a thick marker, or you can use just a pen, anything like that. And you're going to hold the intention in your mind, and just, you can set a timer on your phone for 30 seconds. You can just count down to 30 seconds if you'd like, and then just hold that intention, go from one edge all the way, and just kind of whatever's coming up for you, you can fill it as much or as little as you want. I didn't count to 30 seconds. This is just to show what we're doing. But I'm holding, generally you want to hold an intention in your mind. I'm a little bit distracted with the class, so I'm not holding too much in my mind, but just even based on that, you can see I'm feeling kind of like just kind of free. There's not too many like hard crosses or anything. I've noticed some of my other ones, there are hard crosses, and that can reflect just kind of like a hard intersection that I'm feeling in my life. And then, so after the first 30 seconds of holding that intention, basically you can see there's other spaces around here. I could fill anything. I can make it as intense or as open as I want it to. There are some areas down here that I could fill, so let's fill that. build this one over here, just like that. Connect those two. Oops. Yeah, I made a little mistake, but that's okay. And then so for step 2, all these intersecting lines, once you feel like the page is full, then all you're going to do is, here, I'll switch to the fine tip marker just because it's a little bit more control for me. So intersecting lines, there's a major one right here, and I'm just going to make sure that everybody can see this properly. I'm just going to draw a little U right there, and then I'm going to draw a wider U over here and over here. And then just keep going around. I generally start from one side of the page and just kind of work my way through and just keep drawing these U's. So there's that. Doesn't really look like much. I can actually take this because this line doesn't go anywhere. I can actually just connect it over here. And then we're going to just keep drawing these U's. I find in these areas, you can just draw one big U and it kind of covers both of the corners. And then, yep. And then it kind of starts to look almost like a spider web, which is kind of cool. There's another intersecting line, another one. And I find this is where I really get into it, is just drawing all these U's everywhere. And then switch back to the other side of the marker. And I connected these two lines. If I wanted to make it look a little bit cleaner, I can. And then so I'm just kind of following those U's just below it, and it fills it in quite nicely. And if you have any mistakes on the lines, you can just go back in and fill it out to make the line a little bit thicker, or just kind of, if you see any mistakes, like I said, this area here, it wasn't fully connected. So that was something that I just kind of added in. You can add it in. If you're using a pencil, then you can definitely erase things as you go. But one thing that I kind of like about the marker is it's intentional. And as you put it down, you have to reflect on it. If you use a pencil, then you're taking things away and you don't fully get to see the situation. So you can kind of see how that's coming together. And just by filling out those U's that you're creating, it definitely starts to look like that neural pathway.
Lux, we have a question. Marilyn says, do you ever do this left-handed or using your non-dominant hand?
That is a challenge. I think one day I would actually be willing to try that, but generally I don't. Great for people who are ambidextrous, I guess.
The reason I asked is because a lot of times when we use our non-dominant hand, and I haven't done this, this is something on my radar screen to work with at some point, but when we use our non-dominant hand, we're less judgmental of how we're drawing. And it can be a very intuitive experience sometimes. And using both hands, I mean, you know, either hand, a lot of times we can receive messages, but particularly with the non-dominant hand, there's supposed to be a greater connection. And I don't know any more about it than that, and maybe somebody here does, and they can build on that, but
I would imagine actually if you're using your left hand, especially if it's a non-dominant hand, and using this drawing technique is a way of, especially if you're trying to redirect or think of change your perspective on a certain thing, using your non-dominant hand would actually be like a direct tap into redirecting the neural pathways.
oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. I know a lot of mediums use their left hand before doing a reading. So I've seen that done, and then there's a guy on Netflix that is a medium, and he does it all throughout his readings.
Mm-hmm.
I actually, you know, I started drawing while you were talking. Can I share my drawing? Let me see if I can. Okay, so first of all, for once in my life, I'm not working on anything. So I wanted to celebrate that and to celebrate the work I've done in the past. So I loved your word, and I went with healing. Let me see.
Oh, that's beautiful.
So I love your U's that you do where it crosses, but because, can you guys see this good? Am I holding it proper? Good. Thanks, Trent. Okay, but because it's healing, then I didn't have a lot of my lines crossing. They're more in flow, and so you can see my tree coming up out of the healing, the growth coming up out of the healing. And so, and then you can see, if you can detect my green lines of the roots going down into the word healing, and they go beyond the word healing, going even deeper into the ground. And then I added the little hearts. And the last thing I believe I did was to add fruit to the trees, because as we heal, not only do we have growth, but we can bear fruit.
That's amazing. Yeah. And like it's beautiful that you put a tree and roots, because essentially with this drawing technique, it's a way for you to tap into your own root system.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Love that. So thank you for this. I just love it.
Thank you for sharing.
Sure.
I see that Larry has his hand up actually, and I think I saw Desi. That was a beautiful drawing. Can you share it again, actually?
Me?
Desi. Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
good.
Okay.
Desi. Good.
Oh, wow. Love. Nice. All right. So Larry had a question here. Go ahead.
Yeah, hi guys. First of all, I very liked Merlin drawing, and I would add to her point before I'll ask my question. I think about the non-dominant hand. When I ask myself this question, I think maybe there is a use for the non-dominant hand when we want to be less deliberate, less judgmental, to detach ourselves from the frontal cortex, from the deliberate parts what we want to draw. And the non-dominant hand will just be flowing on the paper, I think, in my opinion. If you have less control of it, especially not the people that can control both hands, but if you have less control of the hand, you will detach yourself from the judgment and from the control, because you will let it flow if you want to let it flow. And about my question, with especially your art, especially with the neurological, your style, I would call it. When you started the first step, when you start drawing the on the paper, right, with the marker or with the pen, would you suggest that if I'll try this exercise now, that I won't get off my pen of the paper? Because in my mind, I wanted to do like shapes or more contextual, or how do I say it? Like I wanted to draw something like more hard crosses or more hard shapes when I can get off my pen of the paper. But when I saw you drawing, you draw it all in one continuous line, and then you thought to yourself, where could I add more? So my question is, what would you suggest?
It's totally up to you, because this is about tapping into your own intuition, your own emotions. So if you wanted to lift, like if you just wanted to time the 30 seconds and lift the pen as many times as you want and just do it during the time, or as you said that you saw me doing, which I don't even think I was fully aware of, but like keeping the pen to the paper, it's totally up to you. And if you wanted to add shapes, like in some of the other examples that I showed, you can add the shapes afterwards too, right? So
okay, thank you.
Thank you for asking and sharing, Larry.
Guys, we're almost out of time. We have time for maybe one more question. Nikki, I know you have your hand raised. If you wanted to go briefly, then we'll wrap this session up.
Okay, thanks so much. I don't know if anybody's taken Nick's, I said his name wrong. It's a quest for the super brain. I can't think of his name right now. I took remember his name.
Oh, Jim Quick. Jim Quick.
Yeah, Jim Quick. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So Jim Quick was talking about switching your hands, using different hands. I'm left-handed, but I'm dexterous. But he was just talking about, like, for example, brushing your teeth with the opposite hand. It creates different neural pathways. It builds new neural pathways, and it brain stronger. Wanted to first just say that really quick before I forgot that, and then I came in a little bit late, so I'm sure you already said this because you guys are so profoundly intelligent. But Incan, I'm not saying you. First of all, you are so beautiful. I just want you to know you are so gorgeous. You mentioned something about your nervous system, right? So I've been doing a lot of, there's a different term from the word healing. I can't look it up on the phone right now because we're in the middle of this, but it's more knowing that we're already whole, perfect, and complete, and coming back to that. And what I have realized in healing my shadow and making peace with her, that a lot of these quote unquote pains or things or experiences that we're having, the appearance of a disease, it's our nervous system. It's the nerves in our body. It's our trauma. And then it's going into the nerves and creating something physical. So if we can be loving enough with ourselves to do the shadow work, and I'm sure there's so many more things that I'm still learning in the spiritual life, but I've found that I've reduced lots of inflammation in my body temple, found more peace. And as an empath, I noticed that sometimes if I'm giving too much spiritual help, the place in my body hurt again, the place where I've healed it. So I know it's time for me to take my energy back. And I've really been learning about healing myself. I said this on the other group. When we give, when you're a really big giver, and I know you are, everyone on this group is, we don't recharge, and no one teaches you to recharge your battery. You know, you go to the store and you buy new batteries. You don't think you have to charge the battery within yourself, you know? It's not like we recharge on Monday and then we never do it again in life. You know what I'm saying? You don't eat once of your life.
It's a continual thing, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Why we meet weekly.
It's good to have that regular meeting.
Yeah, but
that's exactly the reason why we meet every Sunday to recharge.
The reason we've been doing this for a while.
Yeah, for more than 2 years.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing.
You're such a sweet soul. Thank you for being with us. And you know, that's what we appreciate, guys. Everybody of you who's coming to these calls. You really, you contribute with your own energy, and you make this place so special because you are with us. It's the co-creation of our core team with the participants, and that's the reason why I love that this call is happening every Sunday, and it's creating a beautiful ripple. Trent, will you announce our next week's session?
I sure will. I'm going to go ahead and tease next week. We're going to have Mimi Romo as our special guest. She is going to do a Joe Dispenza style meditation on mastering your emotions. So I put the link to the community in the chat just now. So go ahead and make sure that you join there if you haven't already. And as usual, you can expect a fantastic session. Thanks again to Lux. She did an amazing job. If there's a way, wow, Vivian, if there's a way to reach you, how should we do that, Lux? How do we get in touch with you?
That's the one thing I forgot, my PowerPoint. So I'm on Facebook and on Instagram, both as Lux MacLeod, McLeod, and I can just type it into, actually it was on the PowerPoint, and I do believe, if you're able to see my Facebook on the initial event, then it's the same name on Instagram. And that's mostly, Instagram is mostly my art. I'm still expanding my art. I'm still learning. But right now I'm learning how to get into murals and stuff like that. So if anybody wants to fly me out somewhere for a mural, I'd love to do that.
I may have to commission you. I really dig the cosmic stuff.
Thank you. I've actually have a lot of people. I didn't ever think that was going to be kind of the direction I went into, but now that's where I am, and I'm loving being in the stars. So, and being with these stars. So thank you so much.
I just see in the comments, this went so fast. This call was like that, and I feel the same. It was just magical and powerful. And so inspirational. I love you, and I love what you brought to the collective. Thank you so much, with all my heart.
Thank you.
I will continue. I will definitely. This is now becoming one of my rituals. I love it, and I hope, guys, we all inspired you. Be with us next week again, and like always, we keep our ritual in the end. Unmute yourself and say bye-bye in your own language, so we show that we are tuning in from all over the planet. We are one, and we love you guys. I say auf Wiedersehen. Ciao, ciao from Italy.
Bye.
Goodbye, adios.
Bye.